Good evening everyone and welcome to Aurora online classes. Dear students, I'll continue with the same lesson which I taught you yesterday, and the name of the lesson is Weathering the Storm in Erasama. So yesterday I gave you the summary of this lesson, and today I'll give you line by line explanation of this lesson. So let's begin. The cyclone that hit Orissa in October 1999 killed thousands of people and devastated hundreds of villages. For two dreadful nights, Prashant, a young man, was marooned on the roof of a house. On the third day, he decided to go to his village. Did he find his family? In my previous class, I taught you that Erasama, a coastal town in Orissa, was hit by a super cyclone in the year 1999. So what happens here? Let's go through. On 27th October 1999, 7 years after his mother's death, Prashant has gone to the block headquarters of Erasama, a small town in coastal Orissa. This Erasama is in the coastal area of Orissa. You know, there is a sea beside Orissa. So after 7 years of his mother's death, Prashant went to the headquarters of Erasama, and he had to cover a distance of some 18 kilometers from his village to spend the day with a friend. So actually he went to his friend by covering a distance of some 18 kilometers. He went to his friend's house in Erasama. Erasama was his friend's house. He went there. He wanted to stay with his friend for a day. So in the evening, a dark and menacing storm quickly gathered. Winds beat against the houses with a speed and fury that Prashant had never witnessed before. What happened in the beginning? What happened in the evening? In evening there was a menacing, a very dangerous storm took place. It occurred and fast winds started blowing. Prashant has never seen such a scene. And not only that, then started heavy and incessant rainfall. Incessant means continuous rainfall. Then it started raining very heavily and continuously, and this filled the sky with darkness. So all trees were uprooted. The trees were uprooted and they fell down on the earth. Screams rent the air as people and houses were destroyed, swiftly washed away, and then the water swirled round into the friend's house. There was water all around. Sea water entered his friend's house. The water was up to neck deep, means there was neck deep water. The building was of brick and mortar and was strong enough to survive the devastation of the wind's velocity of 350 km per hour. Actually, this was the velocity of the wind. A very fast wind was blowing. So this storm was devastating, very destructive storm which caused a huge loss to life and property, isn't it? So weathering the title of the story is quite suitable. The weathering the storm in Erasama. People weathered the storm, they faced the storm. That is why this was not only one, this one. So the story is about, it is of collective efforts to weather the natural calamity. Earthquake is a natural calamity. It is a catastrophe. It is a natural calamity, natural disaster, I would say. Volcanic eruption, flood, then super cyclone, a storm. They are natural calamities. They are natural calamities, and they are like cyclones, then earthquake, volcanic eruption, then floods. They are natural calamities or catastrophe, we can say. They are natural disasters, I would say. So actually The story is about collective efforts to weather the natural calamity, the super cyclone, and this super cyclone hit Odisha. All were the victims of this super cyclone. So the trees got uprooted and fallen on the houses. Many trees fell on the houses. That is why the houses were destroyed. Sometime in the middle of the night, damaging its roofs and walls. Actually, the walls, the roofs, and the walls were damaged by super cyclone. The trees fell on the roofs and the walls of the houses. The crazy destruction wrought by the cyclone and the surge of the ocean continued for the next 36 hours. It continued to be for 36 hours. Although wind speeds had reduced somewhat by next morning, to escape the waters rising in the house, Prasant and his friend's family had taken refuge on the roof. What happened? Prasant and his friend's family, they took shelter on the roof of the house, because all the houses, nearby houses, were destroyed. They were completely damaged. The trees had fallen on the roof. Then there was water from all sides. There was water all around. Water had entered the house of his friend. Not only his friend's house, but the houses of all other friends, all other people also. So Prashant and his friend's family had taken refuge, means shelter on the roof. Prashant will never forget the shock he experienced at the first glimpse of the devastation. Devastation means destruction, wrought by the super cyclone in the grey light of the early morning. Raising deadly brown sheet of water covered everything as far as the eye could see. Only fractured cement houses did stood in a few places. Blotted animal carcasses. Carcass means dead body of animals. And human corpses, corpses means dead body, floated in every direction. What happened? There was water all around in the streets and all around the village, all around the town. And the dead bodies of human beings, the dead bodies of animals, actually they were floating on water. There was a very grim situation of flood all around just because of this super cyclone. Then the two coconut trees had fallen on the roof of the house. This was a blessing in disguise, because the tender coconuts from the trees kept the trapped family from starving in the several days that followed. Actually, Prasant is the main character of this story. So Prasant is the protagonist of this story. And what happened? They were on the roof. That is why the coconut trees, they were getting food items from coconut tree. They drank coconut water and they could survive. So they survived on coconut's water. So the family did not starve. So their family was saved from starvation. So for the next 2 days, Prasad sat huddled with his friend's family in the open on the rooftop. They continued to sit on the rooftop of the house for 2 days. They froze in the cold and incessant rain. Incessant means continuous rain. They froze in the cold and continuous rain. The rainwater washed away Prasant's tear. Prasant was very upset and worried about his family. The only thought that flashed through his mind was whether his family had survived the fury of the super cyclone. He was worried whether the family had survived in this whether Prasant's family. So Prasant was very worried, very much worried about his family, whether his family is alive or not. Isn't it? So it was a critical situation. Was he to be bereaved once again? Because he had already lost his mother. 2 days later, which seemed to Prasant like 2 years, the rain ceased and the rainwater slowly began to recede. After 2 days, what happened? After some time, the rainwater started receding, started going down, started getting minimized, started reducing. Prasant was determined to seek out his family without further delay. Prasant wanted to search for his family. He was very much worried about his family. At this time, Prasant was with his friend. He was with his friend. He has spent 2 days on the rooftop of his house, but now he was concerned. He was very much worried about his family. So he wanted to search for his family. And he was very much worried about the well-being of the family. He was thinking whether his family is still alive or not, or whether he had lost his family. Because Prasant had already lost his mother, but Prasant was a very bold and brave boy. He had the qualities of a leader. He emerged as a leader. The 2 days later, which seemed to Prasant like 2 years, the rain ceased and the uh, water slowly began to recede. Prasant was determined to seek out his family without further delay, but the situation was still dangerous, and his friend's family pleaded with Prashant to stay back a little while longer. His friend's family requested Prasant to stay with him for a while longer, for a little longer, but Prasad knew he had to go because Prasad was determined to go to his house, because now he was, so from his friend's house he wanted to go to his house, and there was water all around. He equipped himself with a long, a sturdy stick, and then started on his 18-kilometer expedition back to his village through the swollen flood waters. It was a journey he would never forget. He constantly had to use his stick to locate the road. He was using the stick to locate the road. There was what you can see in this image, in this picture. How is Prasant going? He is wading through the water with the help of a stick, with the help of a lathi. You can see in his hand, and he is using this lathi. He is using this a strong stick to locate the road, to determine whether the water was most shallow. At places there was waist deep water, at places there was knee deep water. At several points he lost the road, and he had, at several points he had lost the location of the road. At several places he had to swim. So like this, after some distance, he was relieved to find two friends of his uncle who were also returning to their village. You can see two people here. So they were his village friends. They were the friends of his uncle, and they were also returning to their village. So now it was a great support. They decided to move ahead together. So all of them decided to go together. So this was a journey of 18 kilometers. As they waded through the water, walked through the water, the scenes they witnessed grew more and more macabre. They had to push away many human bodies, the dead bodies of men, women, children, and carcasses, means dead bodies of dogs, goats, and cattle. They were swept against them, and they had to push away the dead bodies of men, women, children, and other animals or cattle to go ahead. In every village that they passed, they could barely see a house standing. They were passing through many villages, and there was water all around, and they could hardly see any houses standing. Even the houses were destroyed. The villages were destroyed. The trees were uprooted. There was water all around. Most of them had lost their children. Most of had lost their mother. Most of them had lost their fathers, mothers, parents, brothers, sisters. So there was a huge loss of life and property just due to this super cyclone. So the situation was very critical. It was a very pathetic situation. Even though Prashant did not lose his heart, he did not lose his patience, he moved ahead. Eventually, then Prashant reached his village, Kalikuda. The name of his village is Kalikuda. His heart went cold. Where their home once stood, there were only remnants of its roof. When he reached village, he was he was really upset to see the condition of the house. There was a time where there was a house, there was a complete house, but now there was no complete house, only the roof was left. Some of their belongings were caught, mangled, and twisted in the branches of the trees just visible above. And some of the belongings were tangled in the branches of the trees. They had got trapped in the branches of the trees. The dark waters, the young Prashant decided to go to the Red Cross shelter to look for his family. So where did he go? This Prashant went to the Red Cross shelter to look for his family, to search for his family. Now Prashant had come back from his friend's house. He had covered a distance of 18 kilometers. On the way back home, he found the dead bodies of men, women, children, cattle, animal floating on the water, on the surface of the water. It was a critical situation. So young Prashant decided to go to the Red Cross shelter to look for his family. Among the first people he saw in the crowd was his maternal grandmother. So Prashant went to the Red Cross shelter where he found his maternal grandmother Nani. Weak with hunger, she rushed to him, her hands outstretched, her eyes brimming. When his maternal grandmother saw Prasant, she became very happy and she expanded her hands to give him a hug, and she hugged him and her eyes started brimming with joy. It was a miracle they had long given up for dead. Now, so it was a happy time for them. Quickly word spread and his extended family gathered around him and hugged him tight in relief. Prashant anxiously scanned the motley, battered group, his brother and sister, his uncles and aunts, they all seemed to be there. So Prashant found the members of his family, brother, sister, his brother and sister, then his uncle, aunts, everybody was there. So everybody was happy to see Prashant and alive, and Prashant was also very happy to see the members of his family. So dear students, the effect of the super cyclone was very devastating. It was destructive. It brought a big loss, a huge loss to the life and property. So thank you very much, dear students. This is all for today. I'll teach you the rest of the things in my next class. Till then, be happy, keep learning, keep practicing at home. Thank you very much.